Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education on Monday, December 13th. And if you'd please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First on the agenda, I see we have the architect concept plan for Ranson and Shepherdstown Elementary Schools. Mr. Randy Jones.
First, you're going to have Miss Joyce White. How about that?
That works.
I'm going to set the stage for Randy.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate all the planning that's gone into this moment before we share the plans with you. We've had a long and thorough planning process, and I'm excited tonight to be able to show you all of the hard work, foresight, creativity, and stakeholder input that has gone into the design phase of our new schools that we're going to share with you this evening. The presentation of these plans is a culmination of several years' work. We began this process when the board had the foresight to purchase 2 properties with plenty of future growth and great building potential. We then began the process of creating committees to develop short and long-term goals in our 10-year facilities plan, otherwise known as our Comprehensive Educational Facilities Plan. That process included stakeholder groups comprised of staff members, parents, and community members who provided valuable input into the needs of our current and future facilities, tonight of which will be 2 new elementary schools, thanks to the passage of a bond in November 2020. Once we completed the process of the input for the CEFP, public hearings were held for further input. We held a town hall meeting for the public to gather more ideas in 2020. And in November 2020, despite the pandemic hitting, the community was gracious and supportive and passed a bond for $43,732,971. The voters said yes to the children of Jefferson County and entrusted us with the completion of bond projects. The planning process has continued. We were one of 8 counties that received school building authority funds to add to the funding of our 2 elementary schools. Over 30 counties applied for those school building authority funds. The next step involved kicking off the official planning phase, and during this phase we welcomed aboard an educational specification committee comprised of various staff stakeholders. They provided valuable input into our new schools. We then met with student groups at each school and incorporated some of their ideas into the new schools. Then we gathered input from our local school improvement councils. Tonight we're pleased to share the results of the planning phase with you. Our next phase we're going to enter is the design phase, where we'll be doing some interior design. And with us throughout this process has been Randy Jones of ZMM and Bill Shelton, his civil engineer. Randy Jones is the principal architect on the project. His team have been with us every step of the way, interacting with all stakeholder groups, listening to what the staff and community want to see in our new schools. So they've taken our vision and will now share the results with you. Through this partnership, we will all work together to create a state-of-the-art elementary school at Ranson and at Shepherdstown that will be the best schools in the state. So without further ado, I'll introduce Randy Jones.
And Mr. Jones, may I interrupt before you start for one moment, please? Just as a reminder to everybody that we do have a mask mandate in the building. And if you need a mask, I believe Dr. Gibson has some right here.
I have an exemption.
I have an exemption.
I have an exemption.
I have an exemption as well.
All right, Mr. Jones, please continue.
Thank you. It's great to be here tonight to share with you some conceptual plans that we've been developing for the new school. I believe we have a PowerPoint that will be coming up that will give you some insight into the planning that we've been doing. As Ms. White said, we've met with quite a few stakeholder groups and gotten a lot of really good input, and we're really excited to bring these plans to you tonight for your first look. There will be additional public meetings scheduled coming up so that we can share these plans further in more detail with the public. Our next step will be to submit these plans to the School Building Authority as our schematic design phase, and that will happen this week following this board meeting. I'm going to have Bill Shelton come up and show the site plan. It looks like part of it got cut off, Bill. So
They just ask Jason, please scroll up.
scroll up. Okay, thank you. Bill, you can go ahead and review the site plans real quick.
Okay. The site we're looking at here is in Ranson, and as we looked at this site, it's a great piece of property, a large piece of property with a lot of, as Ms. White said, a lot of area for future development. We wanted to orient the school kind of as a first entrance into the property, also leaving the rest of the property open for the future development. The way the topography worked, it was a great place to set the building. And we're in discussions with the transportation and utilities providers for the school, getting things going. Next slide. This is just a little bit of a closer look at what we have. What we're trying to achieve is a separation of traffic, pedestrian, buses, and parents. Basically trying to create a safe environment for vehicles coming in and out, a lot of stacking room for parents to drop off and pick up, walking trail around the outside. We're working on connectivity with potential future developments in the area, and trying to encompass all of that into a all-around design for the school to keep kids safe and keep parents safe, keep the traffic where it needs to be. I'll move on.
Yep.
Oh, and the next site we have is Shepherdstown. This property is also a nice large piece of property. We tried to again situate the elementary school to allow for the future development, providing some infrastructure with the roadway going through. We always like to have multiple ways in and out of a site so that we don't get locked in. If something happens at one entrance, we have an alternate exit we can use. Next slide. And again, kind of the similar concept where we have the buses separated from the parent drop-off and faculty and staff areas. Keeps those a little bit separated. Just another note to point out, our bus loops, the way we design those can be gated off during the day. Kids can get out there and they can use that as a track. We try to maximize the efficiency and the site design and get the most that we can out of what space we have. Also have walking trail there.
Can you just say which, is that Flowing Springs on the right and
On the
bottom
right hand side is
Gardner's?
Shepherdstown Pike.
Yeah,
and
okay, and the bottom is Gardner?
The bottom is Gardner's,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, it got flipped on the blow up. Yeah. So Shepherdstown will be to the north of the site, and the church is right next door there.
Next slide. So we wanted to give each school a very individualized look. The floor plans themselves are nearly identical. Ranson has some additional features that Shepherdstown does not. Has several spaces. There is a parent center with a conference room and a parent advisor office. There's also some mental health services areas that are there. So Ranson's outside look is more of a has more of an arched barrel arch type roof. This is actually the main entrance on the right, and the gymnasium is on the left. And next slide. think we're having just a slight technical difficulty, but this shows an overall view of the front of the building. The way the building is laid out, all of the common spaces are on the front of the building. It was designed to where it can be used as a community center. And then all the academic areas are towards the back and they can be locked off. So the right-hand side of the building can be used independently of the left-hand side of the building. The academic wings can be closed off after hours and on weekends. The arched roof on the right is our dual STEM lab and art room, and those all have separate exterior entrances and outdoor classrooms as well. The area on the left there with the glass wall is our dining room area, and that is situated adjacent to the gymnasium, and there's a stage in between. So the stage can be utilized from either the gym side or from the cafeteria side. Next slide. And then this just gives you a overall, you can see as Mr. Shelton was describing, we have the bus loop on the right, parent pickup and drop off on the left. But we have the main entrance to the school is right there in the center. But students can also go directly into the cafeteria, and they can also go directly into the gymnasium. So there's multiple options for drop off during the morning. Next slide. At Shepherdstown, we have a different look. It's a little bit more modern and streamlined. This is a rendering of the front entrance. Next slide. This gives you the look of the cafeteria. On the left, there's also outdoor dining area that is open to off of the cafeteria. Next slide. And then right here we have the main entrance into the school. You can see the gymnasium is front and center. To the right is the main entrance, and then to the left is the cafeteria. So same concept, buses on the one side and cars on the other, and then they have entrance into either the gym, the cafeteria, or the main entrance. Next slide. And then this gives you a view of the art room and the STEM lab. There are large, on both Ranson and Shepherdstown, in the STEM and art rooms. We have large glass overhead doors that can open up during the nice weather, and then go out into the outdoor classroom areas, and students will have access to those. We're trying to bring a lot of natural light into the building. We're putting a lot of effort into the front of the building, the facades, and then we're keeping the academic areas in the rear fairly simple. And we may have one more, I'm not sure. That might be the last one. So unfortunately we didn't get our floor plans, didn't make it into the presentation, but we will be getting those out and sharing those. And we also will have some public meetings scheduled very soon where we can go into more depth. With the floor plans, it'd be very hard to read them anyway on the screen. There's a lot of detail there, and but I think that the overall concept is school as community center zone, so it can be used in a lot of different ways. And then during the normal school day, we have access to the academic wings. There's also another reason that we've zoned it in case there is for security reasons. If there's an intruder situation, the school will be zoned off in about 5 or 6 different ways to contain a person in one portion of the school, so they can't just continue to go through the school. So a lot of different functions, a lot of different ideas went into that, and I have to say the students that we met with really had some fantastic ideas. And when we get into the interior portion of the design, we'll be bringing some of those ideas to you so you can see those as well. That's where the students really shine with their imagination. So, if you have any questions I can answer.
I have some questions. One of them had to do with safety. I was wondering about any modern safety features that you mentioned something already.
So the schools will have secure entrances where they will have to buzz into a secure waiting area. And at that point, there will be a transaction window where they'll be interacting with the school receptionist. Most likely during the day, the parent the parents who are there to pick up their children will wait in that secure area. They will not necessarily need to go into the administrative office areas. And then students can come to them. All exterior doors will have card reader access to get into the buildings. And then we also have the zoned features in the building where in an intruder situation, doors will automatically close and will zone the building into separate secure areas so that students will be secure where they are. All doors will have security enhancement features on them for locking mechanisms and those sorts of things. And you'll notice we had a lot of glass on the building, but the glass is protected with a shatter film, so that if you took a sledgehammer and you tried to break through the glass, you could break the glass, but you can't get through it. You can't, kind of like, almost like a windshield of a car. So those are just some of the features that we would incorporate.
You mentioned Shepherdstown, part of the property could be used as a track. You're not going to build a track, are you?
No, we're talking about a walking track that, kind of like a nature trail that we can utilize on the property.
Both schools will have the community center,
Yes.
and why do they have different looks and different
Each school
features?
wanted to have their own identity. The floor plans are very, very similar, but each community has its own unique identity, and they wanted to try to showcase that.
But what about the different features, the extra meeting rooms at Ranson? Why is that?
Dr. Gibson, do you want to address that a little bit? There's
Sure.
needs specific to Ransom that you might want to.
There, in terms of the differences of the populations at the school, Ranson currently houses our largest population of students who need English as a second language. They also are our school that has the highest level of poverty among our students. So they often qualify for additional support services in terms of interventionists and parent resource supports. So those have some additional areas built in because of their Title I status and the required services to be provided to them. In terms of Shepherdstown, some of the spaces that we're looking at there are about community partnerships with Shepherd University, and we have a meeting tomorrow, right? Tomorrow regarding some opportunities for us to put in a very innovative preschool room that will have some features that folks are excited about for us to train new teachers with. So they each sort of have their own characteristics. We tried to be mindful of not just building a cookie cutter box and forcing children into it, but really listening to the ed spec teacher committees at both schools talking about what they needed.
Thank you. Two more. I don't know if you have just in the architecture do anything related to the air quality, or is that a separate?
Yeah, as part of the, once we get further into the detailed design, our mechanical engineer will actually meet with Mr. Caton and some of the school staff, and we will look at the types of mechanical systems, types of air purification systems that we can incorporate into the school, whether it's UV filters that can be put into the mechanical system. There's also several other mechanisms that we can look at to improve the overall indoor air quality.
My last question is the capacity for each school. I was curious.
Yes, great question. So the schools are designed currently for 450 students, but the core areas, the media center and the cafeteria, the gym, the common areas, are designed for 600 students. So we have the ability to add an additional 6 classrooms to increase the capacity to 600.
You can add 6 classrooms.
Yes.
There's space, and you can divide it up later. Is that?
Yeah, we have it planned. If I had the floor plans, and I apologize for that, I would show you where the future additions are anticipated. So.
Have you provided a timeline? Maybe it's on the website. But
Sure. So the overall timeline is we make our SBA submission this week for the schematic design. In February, we make what's called a design development submission to the SBA. And then in May, we make our final submission, which is final construction documents. Once we've been approved by the SBA at each one of these steps, and we achieve the final step, which is the final drawing specifications, we get permission to advertise the projects for bids. So we anticipate advertising the projects in May, early June, and then hopefully have construction begin in August. And then it usually is about 12 to 14 months to construct a building of this size. But right now everything is up in the air with COVID and supply chain problems and material shortages, so that may get stretched out a little bit.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
You all have any other questions?
Thank you very much. It's interesting how the Shepherdstown building looks like a combination of, is it Caperton's house and the yellow brick bank mashed together, and there you go.
Thank you.
So, but no, thank you very much for
You're very welcome.
not just doing the drawings, but taking the time to meet with all of the stakeholders, from
That's the best part of the job.
the kids to the teachers to the community. I know that's a time-consuming process, but it's appreciated. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Next, we have a STEAM presentation.
Part of the bond project support our instructional goals. One such project is the STEAM labs. Each new school will have a STEAM lab. Shepherdstown will have one STEAM lab. It has an outdoor space. And Ranson, because it is centrally located, will have 2 spaces. One STEAM lab will be for use for Ranson Elementary, and the other STEAM lab will be designed for elementary schools to be able to be bused to the location so that they're able to participate in the STEAM lab as well. So in thinking that out, Mary Lind shared an idea with me several months ago for an instructional method to assist teachers for incorporating STEAM lessons into their teaching. It's a level program that are progressive, and the idea incorporates kits. We want teachers to get started with it now, so the concept is they can check in and out kits, and they'll eventually be homed at Ranson Elementary in that lab that will be designed to move on for the other elementary schools. So we're starting something now, and as Mary will explain, it will continue on. So she's designed the kits, and she'll provide training to the teachers, and I'll let her explain a little bit about it this evening.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Lind. I am your pre-K to 2 coordinator here at the Jefferson County Board of Ed. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about STEAM. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. And I'm so excited that we're going to have this opportunity to provide this for our Jefferson County students. So if Jason could pull up the timeline for our STEAM timeline. Go to the next slide, please. So this is all going to begin in January. And how's it going to look is we're going to be bringing in teachers from our classrooms to help create the lessons and the curriculum in the STEAM bins. So in January of next year, we'll be doing the postings, and we'll be giving this opportunity to teachers to work with me in creating the lessons for the STEAM bins. Also in January, we're going to be passing out surveys to all the teachers that is going to be collecting data on how well do they feel they are covering their science standards. We are going to be then using that data to help drive our instruction in terms of creating the lesson. So we're going to be using what do the teachers feel like they need in their classrooms. We're also going to be looking at the GSA data and looking at any gaps in math, as well as to see what kind of standards do we really need to hone in on in these lessons. So February, that's the data compilation that I just talked about. And then in March and July, we're going to be having these teachers, approximately 6 teachers from the elementary schools, and we're going to be meeting for a few hours a month while they're going to be working at home virtually with their partner, creating original curriculum. And what's so important about STEAM is that we really do not know what lies ahead for our students in 5 years, 10 years, or even in 2 years, as we know from the last couple years that we've been in education. But what we do know is that the skills that employers are looking for are those soft skills like, can the students communicate? Can they adapt? Can they persevere? Can they problem solve? Are they creative? And the STEAM lessons that we're going to be creating will be, those are the kind of opportunities that our students are going to be having with those kits, as well as the academics and the technology piece that comes with STEAM. So the lessons will be created, we'll be ordering the materials. Teachers are going to be getting like Tupperware bins with everything that they need inside to have a successful lesson. Then those kits can go back to Ranson, be checked out again, refilled with any of the consumables, and brought back out to the schools. And then we're hoping that upon the success of this program, that we can make a new STEAM team next January, create new lessons that build on this year's lessons until the STEAM room is built, and then we can start doing PD for teachers and bringing students into the STEAM room at Ranson. That's the quick version of the STEAM project. So please, any questions?
I have some questions.
Definitely.
Are you going to go over this?
Yes,
Yeah.
not right now.
Today, though?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are these kits, they're only for pre-K through second grade students?
They're for pre-K to 5. They'll be for all elementary. I am the pre-K to 2 coordinator,
Right.
though. That's my title.
So you're overseeing the 3
Yes.
through 5 also?
Mm-hmm. Well, Tara Mahoney will be working with me as well.
So what's an example of something that's in a kit?
I would have brought something with you, and we could have done a STEAM lesson. So here's an example. I did a really great lesson with Ranson Elementary, and if Jason goes back to the original slide cover, you will see a picture. Yes, that right there. This is a picture of a student at Ranson last year. This was an original lesson that I created using a really good picture book about Frank Lloyd Wright, who's an architect, and it's about his house called Falling Water up in Pennsylvania. So the lesson was all about cantilevers. And so the lesson was very scaffolded, where we just started off with a paint stick, which is an inexpensive object, and the kids were able to see how far off the yardstick, the paint stick could go before it fell. So then we talked about the counterbalance, which is the process of the cantilevers. And they used washers to secure the paint stick. Then they were able to build their cantilevers out from the table. And that is exactly what Frank Lloyd Wright used in his home in Falling Waters. So that would be an example of a STEAM lesson where kids are working together, they're collaborating, they're partnering. They're faced with just enough challenge that they have to think about it, but yet they still can be successful. And that's what Ms. White was saying, was that the lessons will be leveled. We do not want to give a lesson to a kid where they face frustration immediately and give up. We want to build confidence and to have success in the classroom.
You mentioned GSA data and gaps in math.
Right.
What is GSA data?
So the GSA is the General Summative Assessment that we give our students in the spring. So we'll look at that data to see where in math are the students seem to be having some difficulty.
For what grades, though?
Well, that test is given to 3 to 5.
Okay.
Anything else? I'm really excited about it, and I hope to come back and show you lots of great evidence of the STEAM bins. Thank you very much.
Ms. Lind, I just want to
Oh,
note
yes.
that we appreciate the fact that, you're not waiting for the labs to be built, that you're moving forward with the actual lessons before the labs are built. So thanks for thinking outside the box on that one and just moving forward with it. And then once the labs are built, increasing it, but not waiting for the building to be built.
Right. Thank you very much. Curriculum is my passion. Like, I know that's my title, but writing and developing curriculum for children and teachers is truly my passion. So I hope it gets conveyed in this project.
It shows. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. the Deputy Superintendent for Instructional Support update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to thank Mary also. She's a very, very innovative, creative mind that I'm glad she's the one who's behind these kits because I know they'll be done right and with a lot of thought. So I appreciate all of her work. I have a brief presentation for you tonight. I told you last time that we would be bringing some data to you little by little. Tonight, we would like to present to you some pre-K data. And as you on the agenda, it says BoY. That's the beginning of the year. So each year when pre-K students enroll in Jefferson County schools, we give them what's called an ELRS assessment, and Mary's going to explain a little bit about what that means. And we wanted to share that data with you and also data from previous years, so for comparison's sake. So I'll turn it over to Mary and let her speak a little bit. Come on back up, Mary.
He said, don't sit down, you're going to do it back up. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Lind. I'm the pre-K to 2. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so the ELRS, we're throwing around lots of acronyms or initials tonight. ELRS is the Early Learning Reporting Scale for pre-K. We give this to every student that comes in. This is a graph that shows the beginning of the year data since 2015, the last 6 years. Just for reference, the very first bar graph that says 2015, 2016, those kids are in 6th grade this year. So as you can see, our kids are coming into our school system knowing a lot less than they did in years past. So I'm going to break this down a little bit more for you. So if you look at the graph, we have language manipulation. That's how kids hear and produce sounds, to put it simply. Alphabetic awareness, that's what do they know about the letters of the alphabet and sounds. Print knowledge, that's things as easy as can they hold the book the correct way? Can they turn the pages left to right? And then production, where are these kids in early writing stages? Are they writing from left to right? Are they using letters as symbols? Things like that. So it's kind of generic what we test in the beginning. It's all about their readiness for reading and writing in school. And as you can see, they have definitely gone down since 2015. And so that's a little shocking, but now we're gonna talk about what is my department and what am I doing about this information. So I'm just going to outline a few of the projects that I am working on with C&I. So every month, pre-K has a parent workshop that I invite all pre-K families to. And it's on Zoom, and it's interactive, and we play games, but it's also to equip families with tools that they need to help their pre-K student be successful. So, and every month is built around a theme. So it could be fine motor skills, or it could be the power of a read aloud, or we've even done STEAM. We've had guest speakers. Like I said, we play games. It's a lot of fun, and it's only a half an hour. And we invite every family that's in pre-K in Jefferson County to this pre-K family night. Plus, every kid that attends gets a free book, as well as an educational toy or puzzle or something that has to do with the theme. So for instance, last month we did why cooking is good with pre-K kids. And all the kids got an apron and a cookbook and measuring spoons and measuring cups. And this month we're doing nursery rhymes, and we're really excited about that because we're going to get a book about nursery rhymes and probably a puppet. So that's one of the things that my C&I department is doing. We are also partnering with the June Harless Center at Marshall University with Imagination Library. And we have a $10,000 gift from Bolivar Library so that every child under 5 in Jefferson County can get a book every month through Imagination Library, founded by Dolly Parton. Also, to fill in the gaps in K-2, we purchased Haggerty Phonemic Awareness for all K-2 teachers. And that just helps the teachers address some of the things that the kids might have missed in their more formative years of birth to 3. Sorry. We've also partnered with the special education department. Our goal is to have every K-2 teacher trained in Orton Gillingham so that they are very proficient in teaching reading to our youngest guys. We created a district literacy team last year, and that was with coaches and lots of teachers and interventionists, and we spent a whole year just researching what is the most current research in reading. So what else is next? My focus is birth to 4, because that is what you saw on the graph. Those are the kids that are coming into pre-K. So one of my next projects is to create bags for new moms and dads in the hospital with some educational literature, but also to take that parent workshop and do it for parents of toddlers and do something, I think I might call it toddler days, where any parent in Jefferson County that has toddlers can come, and it would be like a workshop model where we can provide some education and tools for those parents to help with their kids before school. And I think that's about it. So I'm sure there's some questions about that graph. Yes.
Yeah, do all kids in the children in the county have equal access to pre-K?
Yes.
And there's
It's universal pre-K.
And it's in every elementary school?
No.
So-
We do not have a
how-
pre-K in every elementary school.
Where is where are they located, the preschool?
Sure. So we have 2 Head Starts and a pre-K, and also a pre-K at Blue Ridge Elementary. We have a pre-K at Page Jackson. We have a Head Start pre-K at South Jefferson. We have 2 pre-K at T.A. Lowry and 4 at the little building beside T.A. Lowry, which are the Head Start building. We have 2 Head Starts at Driswood and 2 pre-Ks at Driswood. We have 2 pre-Ks at North Jefferson, and I think that's it.
So nothing at Shepherdstown?
No, nothing at Shepherdstown currently. We have 2. I'm partners with Shepherdstown Daycare and Children First Daycare, and Shepherdstown Daycare is in Shepherdstown, but it's not at the elementary school.
So they come as a 3rd or 4-year-old? Is
They have to be
the
4
age?
by July 1st unless they have some special needs, and then they could come as a 3-year-old.
And then they're tested?
Yes,
You-
they're assessed.
What's that?
They're assessed, yes.
Uh-huh. And then, so they've been given this same test every year? Is this the same test?
This is the
since
same test that's given to
2015?
every pre-K student, yes. So it's the same test year after year. Then and I missed this part, Miss Joy, Dr. Joy, I'm sorry. They are assessed 4 times on the ELRS throughout the year, so we can track their progress.
But it's been the same test
Yes,
all along?
since 2011.
So this is the average across the county for the scores?
The data that you're looking at for the last graph was from 286 pre-K students. And to put that into perspective, we have 527 kindergartners this year. So about half of our kindergarten population attends our Jefferson County pre-K.
So like in 2015, how many preschoolers were tested then?
You know, and I didn't dig that deep on that.
It's hard to evaluate these graphs without some basic information, about the numbers.
That's a good point. I can get that to you.
I was wondering, do you evaluate for socioeconomic level? Do you find that students in a certain school district, a certain socioeconomic level, have a lower average, or do you not,
I have not
control
picked
for
apart
that?
the data that much yet.
Yeah, again, it's hard to interpret it without knowing some of that.
But it's, whether or not, what type of social or economic situation they're in, it's evident that the kids are coming in not knowing as much as they did in 2015. So But, so my point of this presentation is to show you guys that we are working very hard to help the families of Jefferson County, because the last couple years have been really hard, and we need to do everything we can to help, especially the parents of these young kids, because we know that that's the most important time in these guys' lives.
Mary, I have a question.
Oh, sure. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. The parent workshop is via Zoom. And
Yes.
that appears it would probably target kids that aren't necessarily our most needy kids, because probably our most needy kids don't have access to Zoom nor laptops. I would like for you to try to figure out a way for us to reach those additional kids that are our most needy kids.
I agree. You know, I think that is a wonderful point, and this was a product of COVID. You know, because it's part of our pre-K policy that we have parent education evenings. So this came about from us not being able to have live events.
Right.
But I think that that is such a good point, and I agree with you 100%, because I would love to see all of the families participate. I'd like it to be such a problem that I wouldn't even know where to host it.
That's why the data is helpful. If you could just separate the data of, you know, what's pulling these numbers down. Do you
Mhm.
have a high rate of lower performing? And it could be that that group is just so much performing that much lower, without really, you know, looking at the data more closely. It's hard to use it.
Yeah. I could definitely, what's that fancy word? Just aggregate?
Disaggregate.
Yep, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sure,
These are the baselines, so this is when they first come in. correct?
exactly.
And you said you do 4 assessments throughout the
Mhm.
year. So at the end of the year, are they kind of all on the same level? Have they all caught up to each other, or are we still in a downward spiral at the end of the year?
That'll be interesting. I'm not gonna hide behind the fact that I haven't been in this position very long, but I haven't been in this position very long. So this is gonna be like the first real year that we're gonna actually gonna be able to see, I think, accurate data with the ELRS.
Okay,
I don't know if that answered your question.
it did. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you.
The next section is just to give you a preview of what's coming. Each year we adopt instructional materials. This year we'll be adopting 2 separate instructional materials. First for ELA, the Curriculum Instruction Department, along with, you'll see what's called the IRRC, which is the Instructional Resource Review Committee. They have been working on reviewing materials, and we'll have a recommendation to the board on January 12th. They've been following a timeline, which includes meeting with vendors, hearing presentations, teachers that are part of the committee going back to their school, and also reviewing what they have heard and learned from the vendors. And then having great discussions at the school about what's most appropriate and what the recommendation should be. So in the next few weeks, actually at our next board meeting in January 10th, there'll be a group of people made up of that IRRC that will be in front of you making a recommendation for ELA, which is English Language Arts, adoption for this year. Secondly, I wanted to mention that at the same time in January, we'll be hiring our science adoption committee, which will be the same format. We'll have teachers from each school that will get together, review materials, hear presentations from vendors, and then meet with their teachers at their schools, and then finally make a recommendation to the department and finally to the Board of Education. So we have two separate adoptions going on this year. The first one will come to you in January. The second one should be in April, I would anticipate at this point. So I want to thank all the teachers that have been so gracious in volunteering, and Mary, Tara, all the coordinators in the Department of Instruction who've been leading those groups. So just to give you a brief idea of the procedures, I referenced some of these, but the first thing is that teachers express interest in being part of this committee, so then they're hired by the Board of Education. And then that same committee reviews materials and shares them with their teachers at their school. The committee also ensures materials are shared with all the teachers in their district, in their school, not just some of them or grade level teachers. That includes all teachers. Then the schools will vote on the options that are presented. And that vote will come back to the IRRC, and that is how the decision is made. It is a teacher-driven committee. We know that our teachers are the experts, and we rely on them to make the decisions with our guidance. So once that committee makes a recommendation, it is brought before you. Following that, there is a period of time when the public can review, inspect the materials, and make comments on those materials. And then finally, we bring it back to the board for your approval. And finally, the last step is to send it on to the West Virginia Department of Education. So my point tonight is just to kind of let you know what is coming your way. And at the next meeting in January, we'll have that IRRC coming to you for the English Language Arts adoption. So are there any particular questions about that? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Alright. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held November 29th, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osmore. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Any discussion or questions?
I was just wondering if that was corrected?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes of the regular board meeting from November 29th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, citizens' comments. Just a reminder that speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and I'll set a timer. Speakers are prohibited from making negative or derogatory comments using a name or position by which an individual can be identified. Comments may not be threatening, profane, vulgar, or abusive, or the speaker will be required to cease his or her comments. So please just follow the rules and be kind. First up, we have Judy York on Zoom. And following Ms. York is Karen Buck.
Hi, I'm Judy York. In 5th grade, our son was invited here to be recognized by the school board. In a feat that surprised us, he had won his school's geography bee. In that spring break, we spent the entire week exploring West Virginia on our way to Concord University for the state competition. It was a wonderful experience, made more special by the invitation by the board. And he dressed up and the whole family came and we took pictures. And I thought about him at the last meeting when I saw the students and their presentation, sharing where their ancestors came from and the memories of the grandmother's cooking. The work they put in to plan and prepare, the excitement and nerves they must have pressed through to present in front of the board, the superintendent, and the camera, and it seemed like a great learning experience. Then later in the meeting, I was disappointed to hear a speaker during citizen comments disrespect and ridicule their efforts, suggesting they've been used as props in a board meeting. I asked this in the last meeting, and I'm asking again today for community members to stop using this platform to disrespect and make fun of kids. It's not okay on the playground, and it's not okay here. We can't forget that our education exists to serve our students, to equip them with the tools to listen and learn about our collective history and build a better future. I first heard of critical race theory here at a board meeting. To learn more, last month I attended a discussion my pastor recommended, hosted by the Union Presbyterian Seminary. You can find this on YouTube. One of the speakers was a lawyer who studied under John Calmore, who's a founder of the theory. She explained critical race theory as one of a handful of critical legal theories that are taught only in law school. Continuing to demand that we don't teach CRT in our K-12 schools is similar to asking that we don't teach brain surgery. Our public schools don't teach brain surgery because we're not medical schools, and we don't teach CRT or any critical legal theories because they're not law schools. So I was happy to see in the last meeting the conversation shifted. An actual lesson plan of concern was brought before the board, and the video was part of a high school lesson plan about the global uproar around George Floyd's death and its connection to systemic racism. Systemic racism is not critical race theory. Systemic racism is an appropriate topic for high school students. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. specifically sought to dismantle systemic racism, and despite all the progress we've made as a country, pockets of systemic racism, as the lesson explains, still exist today. That's why I'm grateful these lessons and their connection to current events are part of our curriculum, and my children are part of that. If we're committed as a community to realizing Dr. King's dream, then we need to learn to collectively reflect, be open to others' perspectives, and help each other notice racism when it's occurring, just as this lesson teaches. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Karen Buck, followed by Chelsea Jardina.
I'm Karen Buck. On Wednesday, December the 1st, this Board of Education received 2 Freedom of Information Act requests from me. They were sent via certified mail and they were signed for by a school person. Here are the receipts. Per the West Virginia Freedom of Information Act, they have 5 days to respond. It's now been 8 days. Okay? The information was due last Wednesday. Ignoring a FOIA is a misdemeanor, and the penalty is a fine of $100 to $500 or jail for 10 days or both. The first FOIA was for a copy of the $20,000 taxpayer money check that we gave to the health department. The second FOIA was for copies of surety bonds for elected board officials or high-ranking school officials. Surety bonds are insurance policy documents that protect us and pertain to school officials' performance and honesty in office, or those employed by the school. Just like any insurance, the injured party can file a claim against the surety bond, even if the injured party is 5,000 parents and taxpayers, each filing a separate claim citing child abuse. Child abuse in the form of masking and other overreaching policies by this board and high-ranking school officials. And they all took an oath that looks like this. There's their oath. After reading the West Virginia Code today, I discovered that the surety bonds and the oaths of office were all recorded at the courthouse, so I didn't even need that extra FOIA request. I found the surety bond at the courthouse, and it covers 2 people. And here it is, the Western Surety Company. The FOIA information that I requested could be used in a court of law to convince this board to listen to the majority of parents about the massive government overreach by this board, which explains why I did not get the information. But more importantly, I contacted the Western Surety Company and I asked, how do I file a claim? Well, I contacted a Mr. T.W. Smith in Minnesota, and he's going to, T.W. Smith in Minnesota, he'll get back to me regarding this. I have gotten no less than 4 emails from these people today, from the Western Surety Company. They're very curious as to what the heck is going on in Jefferson County. Now, how do you stop the madness? Hold on. How do you stop this madness? Expedite immediately any and all FOIA requests that were sent to you. Number 2, start listening to the majority parents.
Thank you, ma'am.
And number 3, end the mask mandate tonight. Vote on it tonight while we're here. Information in the hands of every parent. You heard that. I know you
Next
heard
up
that.
is Chelsea Jardina.
5,000 people.
followed by Jennifer Krause.
Tonight.
That was amazing, first off. I'm Chelsea Jardina. I'm a parent of a 6-year-old in first grade in Jefferson County. The last time I was physically in this building, I was standing up for parents being able to have the choice to send their kids to school or not. Luckily, the schools opened back up shortly after because y'all decided to listen that day to what the parents had to say. After 3 months of the students not going to school. It is apparent that the school board has chosen to not give us parents a choice in another strong matter, which is the mask mandate, after quietly and sneakily voting on an indefinite mask mandate in the end of October without announcing the decision or the meeting itself to anyone. A June 2021 study published on JAMA Pediatrics showed that when kids wear face masks, the dead space volume of the mask collects exhaled carbon dioxide. This mixes with fresh air and elevates the carbon dioxide content of inhaled air under the mask. In Jefferson County, there have been multiple cases of students where children have fainted because of being overheated and unable to breathe with that mask on. My daughter has expressed her frustration to me on multiple occasions, saying, "I don't like them. They make me hot and I can't see what my friends or teacher look like anymore. I can't see what my teacher is saying when she is teaching me how to say words because her mask is covering her mouth when she is trying to help me sound it out." During a media briefing, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice made it clear that the mask mandate will be up to the people of West Virginia. But before he said that, he said, "I can't mandate mask, and I don't see a reason to mandate mask. If our very own governor thinks it should be up to the people, not just the school boards, for the mask mandates, how does the governor not have the power and authority and willingness to enable a mask mandate, but our school board does have the power?" I personally don't understand that. Much like the flu and colds, COVID will be around forever. When are we going to stop making our kids live in fear? When are we going to allow the parents who have been raising our children all of their lives to have the choice if we want to send our children with masks or not? I would like to also point out everyone in this room wearing a mask is either red in the face or sweating. We've been here an hour. Imagine 8 hours of this for our kids. So, have y'all put any thought into that?
No.
This is for our kids.
Please.
You know, finally do something right for our kids.
Yes. Y'all shush.
So, I guarantee you that you haven't heard the last of us. We will never stop fighting for our children.
Next up is Jennifer Krause, followed by Jennifer Vigil. And please be respectful of the person that's speaking and not interrupt them while they're speaking.
Well, they're fine. My name is Jennifer Krause. Been here many times before. I'm the parent of 5 children, 3 in Jefferson County schools. There have been 112 days since your useless mask mandate and today. Because I always share the current information with you, since the beginning of COVID, deaths in Jefferson County in people under age 51, 0. Why do you continue to count the number of cases when it isn't the number of cases that matter? This virus is mutating and this virus is getting weaker. Follow the science. When will this end? Where's Dr. Reedy? That's what I'd like to know. Hiding behind some Zoom call.
Yep.
All right. Some of you here might need to get your fire extinguisher ready. Try not to burst into flames because I'm about to quote the Bible. 2 Timothy, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind." It is past time to stop spreading your fear and have the courage to return to normal. You must listen to the parents of these children.
Thank you.
Next up is Jennifer Vigil, followed by Sarah Torrey.
Good evening. Tonight I come to you as a parent of 3 children that all attend Jefferson County schools. As a parent, I am highly disappointed in this board and our school system. We have children of ages 3 and up that are masked every day they come to school. These children are only wearing masks at school. They aren't wearing them at activities outside of school or during their own time. If they're masked up, it's because their parents made that choice for them. On Thursday, December 9th, our very own person over here to my left spoke in front of the board and took her mask off. Just this Saturday, December 11th, at around 9 a.m., I saw one of our very own Board of Education members at Walmart without a mask on. Recently, a principal at a local elementary school took off her mask and read to the class for over 15 minutes. I've seen pictures, videos, and have watched principals take off their mask in classrooms, school gatherings, and other events. I'm so glad to see that they have a choice. They can make that choice for themselves or their families. They have a choice. Our children do not have a choice. You have made that choice for them. You have ripped away a parent's choice and rights for the children. Do you truly understand the mental impact you are choosing for these children? You have made the choice to instill fear into them, and you have made the choice to allow students to know their parents do not have a choice. You have made the choice to mentally and physically harm our children each and every day. I can spend my 3 minutes providing you with the facts, but in reality, you haven't listened or done your own research to begin with. You are doing what your choice is, not what is best for everyone. This has become a personal matter for each and every one of you. As we have been in school since August, I can't begin to tell you how many inconsistencies this county has allowed based on COVID protocols. I've been told each and every case is different. However, that's not so. COVID is COVID. The lack of inconsistencies, lack of knowledge, and the fear that has been provided to our children, teachers, and families is unbelievable. The public health advisor for Jefferson County Health Department is unable to provide official documentation on why he feels he has medical rights to our children and can impose such a mandate of masks for our children. He also puts some students in isolation, which is for the infected, others in quarantine for the exposed, and some in both. If he's providing the directive for our children, how come he's not being consistent? How come he's not following the Jefferson County pandemic protocols? How come we as parents have not had to sign off on the fact that he's our children's medical provider, but he isn't? I stand here tonight and ask that this board puts a motion on the floor to discuss the mask mandate and to remove it. I ask that the board thinks about the mental and physical mandates and aspects you are internally given to our children. Let the parents of the children make the choice what they feel is best. Let the parents be the parents and the Board of Education be the educators. As I saw a recent quote, taking things away from people until they say yes is not a choice. I'll leave you with this. A medical degree is required to practice medicine. A mask is a medical device by definition. If the person issuing a mandate is not on an individual's personal doctor and not a doctor at all, they are committing a felony of practicing without a medical license.
Yes. Next up is Sarah Torrey, followed by Atticus Torrey.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Torrey. I'm a mother of 3 boys who attend school in Jefferson County. I'm a licensed teacher with a degree in education and a master's degree in special education, and I'm passionate about the well-being of children. I wanted to speak tonight about the negative effects of masking our children. It's okay. A quick Google search will tell you that the most important thing for children in schools is to feel safe. Fear. A mask is a representation of fear. Masks are scary. You cannot teach children who are in fear. Fear and safety cannot coexist. Fear is a roadblock for learning. Masks are causing our children physical pain, headaches, ear discomfort. My son, look at his ear right now. They're bright red. And skin irritations. Studies show that masking actually lowers the immune system. Masks make it difficult to hear. what a teacher is saying, what peers are saying. Studies show that children need to hear things 7 times before they learn something. Those are studies without masks. Unmask our children so they can hear. Masks block human connection. Human connection is the exchange of positive energy between people. Scientific evidence strongly suggests that human connection is a core psychological need that is essential to a happy life. Human connection lowers anxiety and depression. It helps us regulate our emotions and builds trust. Children spend roughly 40 hours a week at school feeling no human connection because of the mask. Unmask our children so they can feel human connection. When I met my basketball players for the last time last weekend, I forgot to mention that I volunteer in the community as a basketball coach. They were all masked. I couldn't hear their names. I tried to facilitate them introducing each to one another. They couldn't hear each other saying their names. I didn't know who was scared. I didn't know who needed an extra pat on the back because they were nervous about their first day. The parents dropped them off. They had to go out to the car. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Being a teacher is arguably the most important job of all. Let's not make it more difficult by requiring face coverings. Please, please, please consider making masks optional in Jefferson County Public Schools. Please allow each parent to decide what is best for their child.
Next is Attica Story, followed by Jody Coran.
Hi, my name is Atticus Torrey and I'm a 4th grader at CW Shipley Elementary School. I'm speaking tonight because I don't want to wear a mask at school anymore. I don't like masks because I can't breathe in them when I have one on. Sometimes I even feel dizzy. My masks often give me headaches and I can't think straight. Then I get behind on my schoolwork. Sometimes I can't hear the teacher and I know she said something important. She has to repeat herself a lot and it wastes time. I have trouble hearing my friends in class too. Sometimes I have trouble telling my friends apart because masks cover their faces. I would love it if I didn't have to wear a mask anymore. My friends feel the same way. I know because they told me. I'm not afraid of getting COVID, and if I do, I will recover and be just fine. Thanks for listening.
You need to get it together.
Start listening. There's hundreds more.
Absolutely obscene.
Okay, tonight's lesson is again in the language arts. Similar to poetry is writing a motto. Can you guess what these 2 simple mottos are for? It's a fill in the blank. Let's get started. Relationships before blank, grace before blank, patience before blank, and love before blank. You'd probably guess it was a church motto or for a Hallmark movie or maybe the pledge angels take to get their wings. Nope, I'll fill in the blanks. Relationships before rigor, grace before grades, patience before programs, and love before lessons. And it is a motto of the JCEA's website, which I assume is the local teachers union, though they never return my email. It's no wonder our kids aren't learning anything. Fluffy feelings prioritized over academics. Here's another motto to fill in the blanks. All the data in the world cannot accurately measure the love and heartbreak that goes into a single day of blank children whose needs go so far beyond blank. I'm going to go with parenting in the blanks. Nope, teaching. All the data in the world cannot accurately measure the love and heartbreak that goes into a single day of teaching children whose needs go far beyond the curriculum. No, that's not your job. Parenting is the correct answer here, and the curriculum is your job, period. You'd serve your teachers better and maybe be able to keep them if you just let them teach. Teach lessons that can be graded. We learn more and become stronger when we can see our progress. Instead, teachers' unions seem to think they're better parents than parents. This attitude is called the soft bigotry of low expectations. It is used by bigots against races, cultures, or any people groups, such as parents, who they think can't make it on their own. Schools genuinely think they need to help parents. That is bigoted. It could even be called a school supremacist attitude. Parents don't need the school to do anything but teach skills. Parents do the rest: physical, emotional, social, and spiritual health, period. The more schools try, the more confused our kids become. Our next language arts topic is some new and quite overused vocabulary words, such as the new popular word misinformation. This word has replaced the former, more tolerant word of opinion. We all have different opinions. That's why we say it's always good to get a second opinion. Even though doctors all view the same science and medical data, they can have differing perspectives on the same data. Economists, politicians have different opinions, and even lowly parents can voice differing opinions. And we used to still stay friends. The intolerant bigots who overuse the word misinformation instead of opinions have removed the civility out of our schools and communities. For instance, one parent used the word misinformation instead of opinion to suggest that gender-confused students are the most vulnerable to bullying. I believe that parents of, say, autistic children might have a differing opinion, or learning disabled, or fat kids, or kids with glasses, or kids that aren't good in sports, or nerds, and on it goes. And if this parent believes it's truly harder for trans kids, then shame on her for waiting until it became a fad to speak up. Next time, we may address the surprising history of the vocabulary word teenager.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. There are a couple of corrections on here. First and foremost, I will point out number 1 with a change in start date that overjoys me, and I'll talk a little bit more about. Number 3 with a change in retirement date. Number 6, a typographical error. That's not C.W. Shipley, that's Charlestown Middle School. And number 22 with a change in appointment date. So first and foremost, the thing that I would like to announce with the board and with the public is that tonight I will be making a recommendation to the board for a new chief financial officer. We now have concluded an 8-month search with multiple committees to find someone who met our high standards. As you know, when we hire someone in Jefferson, we require that the entire committee unanimously elect them, so that they know that they have everyone's support, and we know that we have the best possible staff. So with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Catherine Russell, who we are recommending for our new Chief Financial Officer. I see that your husband and your child needed to go outside for their own benefit.
He was starting to fall asleep.
Yeah, there you go. So certainly, Ms. Russell, if you could say a few words to the board.
Ms. Russell, if you'd come to the podium,
Of course,
please.
yeah. Sorry, this way. No, it's okay. Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm Catherine Russell, and I'm so excited to be here. I'm looking forward to this next chapter in my career, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody very closely, getting to know you as board members and the community as well.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Russell comes to us with more than 6 years as the Chief Financial Officer, Fiscal Manager. She has a BS in Business and an MBA from Shenandoah University. So she's had quite a strong history, and we are very, very excited to welcome her on board. So, thank you.
Any questions about the consent agenda? Oh. Is there a motion to approve the amended consent agenda for the changes that Dr. Gibson suggested? Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any questions or discussion?
I have some questions. I noticed there was a position advertised for social media, and I was wondering when we approved that. I mean, have we approved that position?
So I'm not sure which position that you're referring to, ma'am, but if you're referring to the retention position that utilizes social media and other platforms for us to be able to get additional staff here, that was on the retention and recruitment plan that the board approved. Yes, ma'am.
No, the board approved the concept, but we didn't approve the job description or anything. So I was just really surprised to see that. It was just an idea. So it just really took me aback because we still have a shortage of subs, and I just, the permanent sub question that I asked at the last meeting, I just wonder where they are. Where are these permanent subs? And I haven't seen them listed. Are we advertising for them?
Wait, is that on tonight's consent agenda, the question that you're asking?
Well, I feel like it's related because I noticed that there's like permanent sub positions for various things, but not teachers.
Are you talking about posted positions, or are you talking about the consent agenda? Because the consent agenda is what's on the table right now.
Right. Just about, I just want to make sure there's no new positions created. So I think, pretty sure the administrative assistant, that's just somebody is taking over because somebody left. Correct? Number 22?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions about the consent agenda?
I think that was the only thing. Yep, that's all I have.
All right. So there's a motion on the table to approve the amended consent agenda per Dr. Gibson's changes. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to unfinished business. We have the retention and recruitment update with possible action to be taken.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to give the board a very brief update on our implementation of the Tier 1 items in the recruitment and retention plan, and approach the board for an additional action for teachers. So number one, as noted, we have advertised for substitute support for all the schools, a permanent substitute teacher and a permanent substitute aide in all of those. To date, I believe we've hired 7, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Loring, in order to help support additional subs in our schools. We have completed all the teacher mentorship assignments. We have completed the payment of employment qualification costs for coaches, and are in the process of doing the same for certified long-term subs. They simply operate on a different schedule, so we've had to work through finance with the timing on that. The career service ladder has been created. All of the process and documentation around that distributed to individuals, met with the service senate, and have applications in tow. In terms of the allocation of student materials for service personnel, that allocation has been completed out to all of the schools. We've met with the service senate, and they have all begun the documentation process and the meeting to procure those materials for students. The referral bonus is slated to begin in January based on our financing. Our priority ones with July implementations, the master staff badging. We have a number of committees, principals, faculty senate, service senate, and teachers, each reviewing different badging systems and meeting with us to convey what content they want in those trainings. Staff development, it's important that it's relevant to them rather than us just deciding for them. The bus driver equity plan, the bus drivers have met, and we have developed bus driver 1, 2, and 3 job descriptions and are matching those up with our peers and looking to the State Department to make sure that we have some equity in that area and that the job descriptions that we come up with are accurate. Expanded preparation schedule. You will note that we have placed that day in next year's calendar that we are asking to go out for approval by the public. So all of these are things that we have done and developed of that first tier of items. One of the things that we would like the board to consider in addition right now, because of, as you saw with the preschool, the incredible level of need among our students, we are asking our teaching staff to take on many duties above and beyond their contract in terms of intervention, in terms of professional development, in terms of working with children outside of school hours to help them be successful during these difficult times. So I recently polled the 8 counties in our Eastern Panhandle Instructional Cooperative. And in those counties, the pay rate per hour for teachers who do this work outside of their contract: Hardy, $30 per hour; Mineral, $40 per hour; Pendleton, $25 per hour; Hampshire, $30 per hour; Morgan, $25 per hour; Berkeley, $35 per hour; Grant, $40 per hour, unless it's summer school, and then it's $30 per hour. Right now, Jefferson County sits at $20 per hour. We have the lowest pay rate per hour for teachers outside of their contract of any of the 8 surrounding counties. So I come tonight to ask the board to consider raising that rate to $40 per hour. A couple of caveats to be aware of. First and foremost, this does not apply to service personnel because legally it cannot apply to service personnel. Under FLSA, they must be paid their hourly rate. Number 2, it does not apply to teachers who teach a class during their planning. Under West Virginia Code, that must be 1/7 of their daily pay rate. We can add something in addition to that, but we can't leave that formula and put something in its place. And finally, ticket takers, that for whatever reason, in West Virginia Code, that rate is $20 per hour, regardless of whether it's service or professional personnel. So those things would not be affected by a change in rate, but all of the other work that we ask teachers to perform outside of hours for pay would be affected. So with that, I'll take some questions. Yes, ma'am.
So then who would get this? What is this? Teachers that are just teaching after school? Is that what that's for?
Some of them, yes, ma'am. Some of them, they're writing curriculum. They're coming, like the folks who are creating the STEAM kits, who we're paying to write curriculum outside of school hours. Ones who are running after-school intervention programs, are teachers who are teaching our 3 through 5 alternative education program. So there are a number of folks who complete work for us outside of their regular contract hours.
So what can you give those people who are subbing during their planning time? Because I know that some of these schools feel burdened by that, and teachers that refuse to do it are being retaliated against, pressured. So it sounds like it's a serious problem. You said there's something else you could do for them?
What I stated is in West Virginia Code, we must provide them with 1/7 of their pay based on them utilizing their planning to teach. That is a requirement. If the board would like to set some addition above and beyond that, what we can't do is replace that with a $40 an hour pay rate. Does that make sense?
Well, what could the board do?
You're the board. If you wanted to set an additional pay for any teacher teaching during their planning above and beyond the 1/7, you have the capacity to do that as a board.
I thought you said we didn't have the capacity.
No, ma'am. I said you did. What you don't have the capacity to do is to replace $40 an hour, to replace 1/7 with $40 an hour.
Okay. So we could keep the 1/7, but add an additional 10 or 15 to that, correct?
Yes, ma'am. You could.
And this lesson plan issue, this is a state rule about the lesson plans, where they have to do lesson plans, because trying to alleviate some of the burden of subbing during your planning time, if you didn't have to write the, present the lesson plans, that might help.
Right. We did meet with all of the faculty senate, both elementary and secondary, and asked them to come to us with a simplified lesson plan, what they felt like would be the bare minimum. We then took that lesson plan back to our principals, and it is my belief, understanding, that we will, at second semester, we will go with the lesson plan template that was suggested by the teachers, which is a very focused version of lesson planning that allows the administration and any parent and any student and any substitute to be able to walk in and see what someone is teaching without it being in such significant detail or with references that it's a burden to teachers. So we wanted them to come up with this themselves, and they did.
My other question is, you said that the long-term subs haven't gotten that pay increase yet, correct? I think it's number 5 on the recruitment retention plan.
Oh, are you talking about the reimbursement for their substitute costs?
No, I'm talking about these levy checks. It's number
Oh.
5 on the tier 1 that
Mhm.
we approved, but
Right.
they haven't gotten yet.
None of them have qualified yet, ma'am.
What
So-
do you mean they haven't qualified?
Well, what we stated was that any of them who would be in full-time teaching positions, sign a contract and have no break-in service would receive the same levy checks. That was slated to begin in the July 1, 2022. Now, if the board would like for us to go back and retroactively look at every one of our long-term subs and whether or not they had fulfilled their full-time teaching position, signed a contract, had no break in service, and were currently becoming certified. Because as you'll recall, the whole point for this was long-term subs get the same pay, with the exception of levy checks, the same holidays, they get the same benefits, and sometimes that is not an inducement for them to go and do the same level of work to get certified as a certified teacher. So when we've spoken with faculty, senate, and with administrators, they felt like there should be some differentiation for a certified teacher. So what this does, the long-term substitute equity, it says if you will go and get your certification as a long-term sub, we will then pay you back 3 years worth of levy checks to get your certification as an incentive to get certified.
I understand what you're saying, but the way it reads here on this plan isn't clear. So I believe these long-term subs thought that they would be getting levy checks from this. But you're saying that that's only if they get certified in that field that they're teaching, I guess. And then you'll go back and give them that money, correct? Is that
Yes, that if it's not clear the way that it's written, I have not been approached by any long-term subs, nor has HR, with that misunderstanding. But if they will come to us, we're happy to clarify, and I'm happy to write it in a different way if folks are struggling to understand that.
Okay. And I guess for me, I would like to make a motion if that's possible. I don't know if this is the right time, but I think that we should offer people that are giving up their planning time, I think we should offer them a little incentive, because they're having to go beyond their work time to do their lesson plans. Either way, even if they are maybe minimized. So
Well,
I would like
can
to.
we take it in two parts first?
Okay.
And I understand what you want to do, and I think we'll get there. But if we could address the first part first, to adjust the hourly rate outside of contract hours, is that how you would phrase it?
The professional hourly rate from $20 to $40 for hours outside of their contract.
Okay, so increasing the professional hourly rate outside of contract from $20 to 40 hours to become more in line with the Eastern Panhandle rates. Is there a motion to make that change?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how many people are we talking about? How much money? What is your projection of how much this will cost? Just out of curiosity.
Part of it was how much of it would come out of the general fund versus Title I. A lot of our intervention funding is Title I funding. It will. Again, it's hard for me to say for this year because we're doing substantially more intervention than we have in the past. So we had to go all the way back to 2000, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was 2019 for the pay that we did outside of that. And it was a little over $500,000, I believe. But again, that was pre-COVID and when we had much smaller Title I allocations because we have so many more children in poverty and who are struggling right now. So those allocations have increased.
For me, it's one thing to give intervention, to work with children that need it. For $40 an hour, that's fine. To make up kits for $40 an hour, it just, it's hard to differentiate, I just...
Those teachers are actually writing the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math curriculum. And then they are selecting the materials to go with that curriculum. And then they are writing the lesson plans. And then they are training the other teachers. So I would certainly argue that that is a skill set in terms of planning and certification that merits $40 an hour.
You didn't say it that way. You said making kits, and that's what I heard. So.
Understood.
All right, so there's a motion on the table to increase the professional hourly rate outside of contract from $20 to $40 an hour to make it more in line with Eastern Panhandle rates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And then as far as teachers covering planning periods, I do know that that is an incredible hardship on our staff right now. And so I would suggest that we make a motion due to the extenuating circumstances of this school year for the 2021 to 2022 school year. We increase the rate for teachers covering those to be 1/7 of their day plus $15 an hour. And I know that's going to cause a hardship on the payroll department, but Ms. Russell has left the meeting, so she is not here to object, so we can put that as other duties as assigned.
Mm-hmm.
And, just as a little welcome present to school system accounting. Is there a motion to increase the planning period by $15 an hour?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to increase by at least $15 an hour.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All right, so we have a motion on the table due to extenuating circumstances for the 21-22 school year, to increase the planning period coverage of teachers by $15 an hour. And any discussion on that?
Can we see a physical note on that by next meeting?
A what, sir?
I want to know how much that's going to cost us
Yes,
for
sir.
the year.
We'll be able to give you an estimate based on, again,
Right.
based on the number. I will say we have an extraordinary number just this year. It is tenfold what it has been in the past in terms of teachers covering other classes for 1/7
And I
pay.
realize $15 is not a lot. I wish we could make it more, but we'll have to see where that leaves us financially.
And understood, it is on top of the 1/7, which we're required to give. And I certainly wish I could make it a higher lump sum, but currently under West Virginia Code, this is how we'd have to do it. But I do deeply appreciate, I know that the teachers deeply appreciate the ingenuity of the board in being able to maintain legal compliance and still honor the work they're doing.
And do you think Mrs. Russell's department would be able to have this in place to start January 3rd when we come back?
That
Or
is
at
a
least make it retroactive?
that is a
starting January 3rd?
retroactive for second semester.
Correct. Like if
Okay.
she can't do it January 3rd, if let's say she can't get it done until February 1st for some reason, I don't know what the procedure is back there, but at least get people paid starting January 3rd when they come back for second semester.
Yes, ma'am, we'll make that happen. If it's as long as there's the grace to, if it takes us a while to put that mechanism in place, because presumably that will be a manual process, that we can add it back to those. Certainly, we can do that.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Action on approval of substitutes in areas of critical need and shortage policy 3120.12.
Okay. Thank you. For this evening, we do have action to approve the areas of critical need and shortage policy, which is policy 3120.12. We did not receive any public comments on this policy. Therefore, the policy is presented to you this evening with no further changes and ask for adoption so we can submit it to the state.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the substitutes in area of critical need and shortage policy 3120.12?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the substitutes in area of critical need and shortage policy 3120.12, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Action on approval to place the draft Jefferson County Schools 22-23 calendar out for review and comment until December 27th, 2021. Ms. Pearl, good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening. Yes, the calendar committee is requesting that the board allow us to place the draft 2022-2023 calendar out for review and comment until December 27th to allow public comment for 2 additional weeks. And we just wanted to note that we had already 2 public notice hearings already where we have not yet received any public notice. So we'd want to be able to provide more opportunity for public to comment. Sorry, I was trying to not say that again. To comment on our draft calendar for 2022-2023.
All right. And thank you for taking the time last week to run those 2 public hearings. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to place the draft 22-23 calendar out for review and comment until December 27th? Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion?
Yeah, at one of those 2 meetings, I pointed out that you have, it's on the family-friendly calendar. May 21st, high school graduations, there's 2 stars, asterisks, but there's no explanation provided.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not get that note. Dr. Joy, I will add the explanation to that. It's the stars they are tentative dates based on snow and everything, but I will add that explanation to the family calendar.
Yeah, you weren't there that day. Who's the other presenter?
Yes, Carol. Thank you, Dr. Joy.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there, all in favor of placing the draft calendar out for review, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jefferson County Efficiency Profile Ratings for 2021.
Okay, last week we received from the West Virginia Department of Education our 2021 County Efficiency Profile. This is a measure of a school district's operational effectiveness. There are 3 areas: instructional, administrative, and student health and safety. Each one of those is broken into programmatic levels. Under instruction, there's career technical ed, federal program, special education, and universal pre-K school readiness. Under administration, there is finance, personnel, what's called official collections, which is actually our data keeping process, a county board of education member effectiveness. Student health and safety is our facilities review, our transportation, and child nutrition. So at the bottom of that sheet, I included a URL for everyone that actually is this 26-page document that shows step by step what each one of those areas is comprised of and how the West Virginia Department of Education makes the judgment of whether or not a school system meets those requirements. They list both what the criteria for judgment are and the pieces of data that they use to make those decisions. So I am very happy to report that in all 11 of those areas under the 3 different operational effectiveness areas, Jefferson County met all of the requirements. So that is a testament to the hard work of the staff even during a difficult time, and I just want to publicly recognize them and show my appreciation for their due diligence, and wanted the board to know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, we have request approval for an RFP bid for the district's trash services.
Good evening. I'd like the board to take action this evening so we can go out for a bid. It's time to renew our district trash services for the next 3 years.
All right. Is there a motion to put an RFP bid out for the district's trash service?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Any discussion? All in favor of putting an RFP bid out for the trash service, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, Ms. White, I have a feeling this is you again. Request approval for an RFP bid for the district's pest management services.
Yes, again, it's time to renew our pest management services and obtain another contract, so I'd like an RFP bid for that upon approval of the board.
All right, is there a motion to put out an RFP bid for the district's pest management service?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Any discussion?
Is that a 3-year contract as well?
It is.
All right, all in favor of putting the RFP bid out for the district's pest management service, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next up we have request approval for an RFP bid for the district's dry mop services.
This is the same for the dry mop services. We need to put out another contract for 3 years, so I'll wait action for the board.
All right, is there a motion to put an RFP bid out for the district's dry mop services?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any question or discussion? All in favor of putting an RFP bid out for the district's dry mop services, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. All right, request approval for an RFP bid for the district's middle school athletic field maintenance.
This is something that's new. Each middle school has kind of assumed their own care in the past for the fields, and we would like to have equity for all of our fields and kind of centralized services so that we can obtain the best services and equal services for all schools. The services would include mowing, 2 fertilizer applications, spring aerification and rolling, overseeding, and soil testing for soil building fertilizer. So this is a new contract that we'll be seeking for the next 3 years upon the recommendation of the board allowing us to go for an RFP.
All right, is there a motion to put an RFP bid out for the district's middle school athletic field maintenance?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any question or discussion?
Is there any maintenance that will have to happen on the turf fields?
Yes, we do have equipment to maintain the fields. Part of that comes under warranty, and the other part is equipment that we use to groom the fields that our own people have been trained on and taught to use.
So that's a whole different category.
That's a whole different category. It's a whole different way of taking care of a field, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all in favor of putting the RFP bid out for the district's middle school athletic field maintenance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. White.
Thank you.
All right, superintendent's comments.
The only thing I would like to do at this point is to recognize the staff. Our special education staff put on this year the Sensitive Santa program. A lot of the things that you see in here we utilized this weekend for the parents of students with sensory disabilities, autism spectrum disorders. Those families came in, they had half-hour slots to participate in some Christmas activities and to have time with Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus themselves, including their siblings who often don't get those opportunities because traditional Christmas venues can be overwhelming for their siblings. All of the materials that were used in that were donated by central office staff and their funds, and all of the staff who worked those days. We originally started off with a Saturday, and we had such overwhelming requests, we extended it into Sunday. So all of the staff who were there and participated were also volunteers who volunteered their time on the weekend to make that happen. So as often happens, people bring out their best when it's most needed, and I just want to thank and congratulate them.
Thank you. And do we have any executive session this evening?
No, ma'am.
We would like a vote. We would like a vote. Make the motion. And the mask mandate.
8:47, meeting
And the
adjourned.
mask mandate.
Adjourn.